Hey, it's me. Ah, neckbeards. What can be said about neckbeards? Oh, I'll tell you quite a few things. But first, let me explain to you exactly what a neckbeard is for those of you that don't know. To sort of give you an idea of exactly what a neckbeard is, picture a man with a beard on his neck, long greasy hair usually, wireframe glasses, fedora, brony, milady type of dude. Very socially awkward, just someone that's very uncomfortable to be around, especially if you're a woman. So yeah, very vague, but if you want to look it up, just look it up on like Urban Dictionary or something. I'm sure you'll get a proper explanation. But on the subject of neckbeards here, I myself have encountered some in the wild, and it was creepy, to say the least. So, story time! Let's talk about neckbeards. So my first encounter with a neckbeard, that I didn't really know what a neckbeard was at the time. I was still kind of in my awkward stage. I was a little bit of a social recluse, didn't know exactly what the social norms were at the time. I might make a video on that another day, but at the time, I had a lot of friends that were sort of in the nerdy group. Some of them were really, really awkward, and some of them were just more nerds. So I used to go over to this friend's house a lot, and at one point, it was a Sunday, and I prefer to go to church on Sundays, and so did she. But she went to a very different church than I did. Hers was more of just the, just normal basic church, non-denominational, whatever. That doesn't matter. So I go to church with her, and, you know, immediately we meet up with some of her friends that I've met before, and one of her friends had a tendency to have a new boyfriend every week. And the boyfriend of the week was a neckbeard. He was, you know, about her age. We were about, say, 16, 17 at the time. So we were all about teenagers. And so she comes over with this guy. This guy's got hair about to here, dark brown, pretty greasy. He's got an attempt at facial hair as much as you can attempt at 70. Very lanky, wearing all black. You know, typical trying to be edgy style, although it was, you know, in the middle of summer, he's wearing all black and coats, and he wasn't wearing the fingerless gloves, shockingly enough, but that's probably because we were at church. Anyway, continuing. So the second this guy walks up with this girl that supposedly is his girlfriend, whatever, they come over, they introduce me, I say hi, and at the time, it was hot out, so I was wearing kind of just a simple sundress with some heels. Nothing, like, super fancy, but just enough to be kind of cute. Not saying, like, oh, I'm so cute, but, like, you know, feminine looking. Most of the girls around me were wearing pants, and they had their, you know, their short haircuts and all of that, because they were going through their edgy stages, and I was still trying to figure out what fashion was. Anyway, off subject. They walk over, so I'm wearing my little sundress and stuff, and it's got some nice hugging up here. Nothing crazy, but enough to see figure. And, you know, I don't have any cleavage or nothing showing, but I do have, at the time I had this purse that went across my chest, and I like to collect buttons, so I had just all these buttons going down it. So this guy comes over, we get introduced, doesn't make any eye contact with me. His eyes are down here. It's like, oh, I like your buttons. Right here. I'm just like, thank you. You know, at first I was like, oh yay, buttons, he noticed. Then he like starts going down, I was like, oh yeah, that one's from Avatar, that's Inuyasha, oh, I've never heard of that convention. Going down my chest, I'm like, thank you? Question mark? So after that little creepy moment, we were just all kind of talking, and of course, they're bragging about their D&D groups, which I wasn't playing D&D at the time, so I was a little confused, and he's bragging about, you know, his strategies, how great his characters are. It's all going over my head, because I don't really know anything about it at that time. And so they're talking, and I have this tendency when I wear heels, they were really short ones, about this high. I kind of have a tendency to rock back on them when I'm bored. It's because I don't know what they're talking about, so I'm just like, rocking back on my heels. And of course, being the klutz I am, I rock back a little bit too far and I stumble a little. So it looks like I'm taking a step back. And this guy was talking to me apparently at the time, and his girlfriend looks over, he's like, oh yeah, you're totally creeping out, look, she's trying to run off. And I'm like, oh, ha, nah, I'm just rocking back on my heels. And this guy, I kid you not, I swear, this is basically exactly what he says. He looks at me, he's like, oh, don't worry, I've repressed the urge to chase things that run, as he looks me up and down. I'm like, okay, that was creepy. Needless to say, the girlfriend got a little jealous and was like, okay, we're gonna go sit on our own, and drug him away. And I did my best to avoid his leering gaze for the rest of the service. I was just like, wow. Just wow. And moving on to the next one, I mean, this is only like one of two. I only have two ones that are good enough to actually talk about. So moving on to the second one, was more recent. This one was actually after I had kind of realized, you know, more social norms, what was good, what was bad, what was creepy. So I joined theater. When I moved out of California, I moved up here and I joined theater. And there was this one guy who was in multiple plays that I was in. He was a big theater guy. To start off, you know, he didn't have the typical neckbeard like look to him. You know, he was fit. He was pretty short. He was bald. He was kind of like, I think he was in his 30s or so. And he had a beard going on, but you know, he kind of had a little bit of a creepy look to him, just kind of the way his eyes seemed to sink into his head or stuff like that. He was nice though, so I wasn't gonna judge by appearance. I was like, whatever. You're a nice guy. Not that kind of nice guy, but he was nice. Kind, you know, always helpful. But as time went on and we were in more plays together, he kind of got a little weird. So during the first play I was in with him, I like to wear a lot of nerdy t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff. I was wearing my black X-Men sweatshirt. You've probably seen it in a few of my videos, and I love that sweatshirt. It's one of the few X-Men products I found that actually have all of my favorite X-Men on it. Anyway, moving on. I was wearing that, and we were all just chilling, like, we had a little break, and we're just talking backstage or whatever. I think it was during, like, set strike or whatever. Anyway, we're talking, and, you know, he notices my sweatshirt, and he's like, oh, do you like X-Men? I'm like, oh yeah, totally, I love X-Men, I grew up on X-Men. And he's like, oh, that's rather odd for the female gender. Straight up says that. I'm like, really? Okay. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm a total nerd. He's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, who are your favorite X-Men? He kind of starts trying to grill me, and I'm like, oh, fight me. So, I'm a huge X-Men nerd. Like, mini story here. There was one time I went to a convention, and, you know, we were waiting for the cosplay contest to start, so in the meantime they were doing quizzes. Like, oh, we'll bring somebody up on stage, you give us a category, we'll ask you a quiz, you know, little comment thing, whatever. And so I got brought up on stage, and so he asked me, alright, what's a category do you think you're pretty smart in? I was like, oh, X-Men, give me X-Men. And he's like, oh, X-Men, okay. And he, like, starts this long question of, like, oh, what was the island of which the mutants were enslaved in this comic? I'm like, Genosha Island. I can give you more details if you like. Anyway, I like X-Men. So, this guy, little bit creepy, but nothing bad. Yet. So, I was in another play with this guy, and at this point, you know, he kind of figured we were friends or something at that point, which I was fine with. We had a few conversations here and there. Nothing too crazy, but, like, at one point, he just kind of started trying to get closer to me. Like, if we were all chilling and sitting, he would come and sit next to me, or like we would have these like 3 chairs set up, or like a bench for this one scene, and we were all chilling. I'm sitting at one end, and he decides to like lay on it and gets his head kind of close to my lap, and I scooched. I was like, nope, don't touch me, just don't touch me. He couldn't take that hint, so at one point, and of course it has to be one of the times when I actually bring a friend with me to rehearsals, he comes over, he's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? I think we're on hugging terms now. Straight up says that to me. I have kind of made it clear I'm a little touch-phobic when it comes to strangers. And he just comes over, he's like, I think we're on hugging terms now. I'm like, I kind of did the awkward, like, one-arm attempted side hug thing. I'm just like, okay. I think he kind of got the hint after that, because he didn't try hugging me. Well, I take that back. He tried hugging me at least once more, but I made it very clear I was uncomfortable. Luckily, he kind of took that hint. But things do get worse. So this part of the story does not involve me, but I heard this part from a friend. So during this play, there was a lot of guys, a lot of girls, and at one point, they all went out to this restaurant to have a cast like meeting or whatever. I wasn't feeling it, so I just went home. And so this rest of the story is from my friend's point of view. He was in the car with a bunch of other guys. All the guys decided to ride together. And then one of the guys that was like a stagehand or something Super nice guy, he's a little bit high school acting, like he's a little immature, but you'll see what I mean. So they're all in this car, and he decides to ask, hey, what are the girls do you find cute in the play, you know? And they're talking about like, oh, I find this girl cute, I find this girl cute. My friend, he found me cute at the time. So he was like, oh, well, I like her. And so they were like, oh, yeah, okay. So they get out of the car, they get to the restaurant, the other guys go in, but this guy, this neckbeard here, he decides to pull my friend aside, and he's like, oh, so you like her? And my friend, he's like, yeah, I think she's pretty cool. I definitely would like to ask her out. And according to my friend, he straight up says, he was like, do you think you're prepared for that? I don't know. Do you think you're ready to take her on? Like, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Does that mean, like, he sees me as this intimidating project that needs to be taken on? Or is it, you know, you can't take care of her like I can, you know, you must be good for m'ladies or whatever. So, needless to say, I didn't hear about that for a while until my friend, like, he was like, yeah, he totally straight up said this. I'm like, what? Reminding you, at the time, I had just turned 21. Yeah, I just turned 21 at the time. And this guy is straight up in, like, his 30s. I've been told I look like a 16-year-old sometimes. He straight up looks like he's in his 30s, and he totally had a thing for me. And so I was just like, oh, that's creepy. That's really creepy. Oh, I just remembered a thing. One of the biggest, creepiest things he did. So first, when we start in this play, we're supposed to kind of play off as love interests. He asks me, is there anything, you know, are you okay with me touching you? Are you okay with, like, a hand on your shoulder? Or, like, you know, like a hug, like a side hug or something like that for stage? I was like, yeah. You know, just don't go crazy, you know, don't kiss me, don't ruffle my hair, you know, stuff like that. And he was like, okay, yeah, that's totally fine. So I was like, cool. You know, we got this understanding going on, you know, occasionally we'll do like a hand pat or like a shoulder touch or something on stage to kind of read off as a couple. So we get to the theater, we've been rehearsing things as are, and so the end of the play, at the end, I sit on the couch because I'm just done with this whole situation. I sit on this couch next to him, and he puts an arm around me. Fine. We get to the theater, and it's the night before opening or something like that, and he decides to improvise. He pulls me close, plants his face right here, and gives me a big smooch on my shoulder. I was very confused at the time. I was very alarmed, and he did that through the rest of the plays, but I couldn't really say anything because it read well on stage. But I kind of made it clear to everyone else. I was like, wow, that was uncomfortable, and he never asked. Never asked if it was okay, never asked beforehand, afterwards, never asked. So that's really all for now that I'm going to talk about when it comes to these little encounters I've had. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys had any, like, neckbeard experiences where, like, this guy just straight up is like, oh, m'lady or whatever. Leave them down in the comments below. And also let me know, I have a few stories of some legbeards that I've met. If you don't know, legbeard is the female equivalent of a neckbeard, you know, very socially awkward, kind of creepy. And I was one of them. Next week's video, you'll get to learn how I used to be a nice girl / legbeard / I'm not like other girls. So stay tuned for that next week. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye!